Confirmation Ministries back at you. This is Raybert Shepherd. We were talking about in the last segment about God creating man in his own image, and we noted there that the word image is the Hebrew word for idol. And so God, in creating man, makes man in his image. Now, I said earlier, though, that this is not saying that God made himself an idol to worship. No. God made us in his image. We are made in God's image. What does that mean? Does that have to do with a physical representation? When the scriptures say that God has made us in his image, does that mean that our physical bodies are made in God's image? Well, we know that God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So that can't be right. God does not have a body like we do. Does this mean then that some people have said the image of God has to do with rationality? Because we can reason and the animals can't reason, that must be the thing that makes us the image of God, because we have rationality, because we can reason. Well, I'm going to address that later on. The image of God has to do with what the text talks about here. The scripture says, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So primarily, the scriptures talk about us ruling. God even now has made man in his image and has commissioned man to rule, to have dominion, to subdue. The scripture says that we are to rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and every living creature that moves on the ground. So the image of God has to do with man having dominion, man ruling. And what I mean by man, humankind, both male and female, because we see here that God created male and female both in the image of God. So when I'm talking about the image of God is man is made in the image of God. God has made us to rule over all his created order. God has set us up as kings and priests over his creation. Now, how do we resemble God then? If this God has indeed made us to rule over man, to rule over the earth, what resemblance? God has given us ears to hear. Does not the Lord of hosts hear? God has given us a mouth to speak. Does not God speak? God has given us eyes to see. Does not God see? God has given us a mind to think with. Does not the Lord of hosts, the God of gods, does not the God of Abraham and Isaac, does he not think? While God does not have ears, while God does not have eyes, while God does not have a nose, while God does not have a brain, physically, we do. And so in that way, we hear just like God hears. We see just like God sees. We think just like God thinks. So, to be made in the image of God has to do with God making himself a representative to stand on God's earth, to rule his earth, to subdue his earth, to hear him, to see him, to think on him, to know him. Confirmation Ministries back at you.